This is our 17th seminar event. Science Ex-Muslims of Norway started about 2.5 years ago. First of all, I want to thank so much to Frit Ord for their support for this seminar. Unfortunately, without their support and our members, our activities should be lesser than what we are doing today. It is very important to support every ex-Muslim activist who is not just living Islam and continues their life, but challenging Islam to save others from dogmas, persecutions, and killings. 24 years after the book Why I'm Not a Muslim, from the call name Ibn Warak, and 18 years after the first ex-Muslim blog, Faith Freedom International, from the call name Alisina, and after the 11 years after the first ex-Muslim organization in Germany, ex-Muslims of Germany, today we are seeing a lot of ex-Muslims voices who stand up, who have courage to confront Islam with their names, pictures, books, and organizations. Of course, we are seeing all these ex-Muslims in the West, because here in the West still we feel ourselves secure enough to stand up. But it is still very dangerous in the Islamic world for every apostates and blasphemers, and of course everywhere in the world. Nobody feels themselves safe when they speak against Islam. Today we are honored to have Australian, Pakistani ex-Muslim atheist, author, blogger, and activist Haris Sultan with us. Haris is the author of the book The Curse of Allah and The Curse of God, Why I Left Islam. He is also a very active ex-Muslim activist on social medias, and he has a YouTube channel where he shares his video podcasts, conversation, and debates, both in English and Urdu. The Curse of God, Why I Left Islam is definitely one of the very important books by an ex-Muslim which will contribute to what I call the age of enlightenment in the Muslim world. This book is a critical analysis of religion in general and Islam in particular. Haris Sultan starting his book about importance of critical thinking, and then he addresses the topics of the God hypothesis, the meaning of life, morality, the character of Muhammad, and the Qur'an under the light of the critical thinking, and of course with the Islamic sources. At the end of the book, Haris explains elegantly the Islamophobia and how to debate with a Muslim apologist. We are very happy to have Haris Sultan here today. This seminar will be live streamed right now on our Facebook page, Ex-Muslims of Norway, and later we will upload the video on our YouTube channel, and it will be there, I hope, always. And we have some like 50 books of Haris Sultan, the Curse of God, in the downstairs at the bookstore. I hope you will buy it, so you have opportunity to get signed. I want to thank everyone, and before I invite Haris here, just explain you that first Haris will have a speech. After that, me and our next leader, Janette, will sit with Haris here and have a conversation. And after that, we will give you time for questions. And today we have to look the clock because of Janette have to catch a flight. I have to go to the night work, night shift. So, okay. And I want to invite Haris here. Thank you, Haris. Welcome. Mike is yours.
Okay, it's working. Hello, Norway. Well, first of all, thank you very much for hosting us in such good numbers and welcoming me and my partner in this beautiful city of yours. And I can't stop saying, but how clean it is. Although we're very far away and there are no hopping kangaroos around, this is still the city. This is the only city in Europe that has reminded me of my city, Melbourne in Australia. I also hear today was your local election day, and I'm sure all of you use your right to vote, making this country even better than what it already is. Even if it comes at a cost of not as many people turning up here tonight. Now, unlike other European countries so far that I've seen, you've done a very good job of keeping your culture and values. Immigration is a good thing. I am an immigrant, and so is my family. Racism is a bad thing. I'm a brown man, and so is my family. I am not anti-immigration, nor I am against capable countries taking their fair share of refugees. However, I am definitely against taking the number of refugees that your economy cannot support, your cities cannot house. And what do I mean by keeping your culture and values? I don't mean preserve your culture as though I'm saying preserve your white race. I'm saying preserve your country in a sense of preserving your values. Enlightenment values are the only thing that has made Western Europe the greatest civilization humanity has ever come up with. Your values, such as respect for freedom of speech, human rights, unconditional scientific research, democracy, uncontrolled art, etc., are the values that are worth preserving. You should not be ashamed of protecting these values. And you should never let people come in your country that do not respect these values, no matter where they come from, whether they're coming from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Australia, or even United States. As my friend Armin Nawabi says, you should not let people with inferior values come to your countries. Now, this might seem a little harsh, but it really is not. Those of us who grew up in countries that are governed by those inferior values understand the importance of your values that are, in my opinion, and as the history suggests, are superior values. People like us envy your free speech, but we are also watching in horror as we see how you are one by one letting go of these values in the name of tolerance for other cultures. You are tolerating the culture that supports intolerance of other cultures, including yours. You're giving up the very things that make your country great. We are all familiar with suicides when people voluntarily give up their lives, but we are now seeing a civilizational suicide across Europe on the grandest of scales. Now, let me tell you how these inferior values can take over your superior values very quickly. If you import people, either by immigration or by accepting refugees, who believe respect for religion is superior to the freedom of speech, you are bound to get incidents like Charlie Hebdo and Danish cartoons. If you harbor people who even sympathize with the victims of Charlie Hebdo and Danish cartoonists, but also say, what did they expect? Maybe they shouldn't have drawn the cartoons. You are going to get more of these incidents. Freedom of speech is the biggest weapon an ordinary citizen can have. No dictator, no despot, no religion likes it. And hence it's a no-brainer that this is why we don't have dictatorships or crazy religions running your great countries. European civilization turned its back on dictatorship. It destroyed the concept of respect for religion. Then why are you asking it to come back? Why are you asking the dissidents like us to respect Islam? I recently helped an ex-Muslim atheist, Pakistani ex-Muslim atheist, escape Pakistan to Nepal. He told his friends that he doesn't believe in Allah. His friend, unfortunately, ratted him out to the local imam, who incidentally told his family. His family colluded with the local imam and had him kidnapped, beaten up, tortured for hours, to repent and come back to Islam. Moreover, his own mother got a fatwa issued against him that whoever beheads her son will go to heaven unquestioned. Can you believe this? Would you want your son to be beheaded just because he doesn't believe in God? This is a mother who is wishing death upon her son. This is exactly what happens when you let religions off the hook in the name of respect for religions. Religions like Islam take over the most sacred of relationships, like that between a mother and a son. You might think that Islam is beautiful, that was just a crazy mother, but we have tons of such examples where parents kill or disown their ex-Muslim children. Prophet Muhammad himself said, "You are not a Muslim unless you love me more than your mother, your children, father, brother, etc." Now, luckily, he escaped. And he had been on the run for 8 years until he heard about me. He contacted me and we raised funds and got him to Nepal, where he's waiting for his asylum application to be approved. People like Spartacus should be the first ones to be given asylum and refugee status in Europe. People like him respect, admire, adore, envy your Enlightenment values. But the sad truth is, a jihadi is more likely to enter Germany than Spartacus. This is what I mean by preserving your country. Protecting its values and bringing in people that share your values, not the ones who reject your values. I respect people's right to believe, whatever they want to believe. They want to believe in a God, that's fine. They want to believe in talking snakes. They want to believe a man walking on water. They want to believe in stick turning into a snake. They want to believe in Muhammad's flying donkey. They want to believe in the creator of the universe sending him a special text message to marry his daughter-in-law. They want to believe atheists are pigs, animals, worst of the creations. They want to believe Allah hates homosexual and women are worth only half of that of a man. That's fine. Go for it. These are amazing beliefs, aren't they? But do not ask me to respect your pathetic beliefs. I do not respect your ridiculous beliefs, and whenever I see they're contaminating the society I live in, I will speak up. I don't respect your beliefs, but I do respect your right to believe in them. Now, this is the power of freedom of speech. I could not say that in my country of birth, Pakistan, without the cost of my life. I cannot go back to the soil I was born in because the religion has taken over the most basic of human rights, that is freedom of speech. The last thing I want is Western countries, these small pockets of lands, to give up freedom of speech. You have people, politicians, so-called human rights activists, who are trying to convince you that we should respect religions. They are advocates of terms like Islamophobia. Do not listen to them. They will end up destroying your civilization. This regressive left's bending over backwards is so poisonous that just yesterday in Australia, they touched a group that no one dares to touch, for good reasons, the Aboriginal community of Australia. A brave Indigenous Australian politician, Jacinta Price, has been criticizing certain elements within her own Aboriginal community, which is obviously angering the status quo Aboriginal community, but also these white saviors. Now, here's a woman that is trying to lift the social standards of her Aboriginal community to put it on par with the rest of the mainstream Australian society. But these regressive leftists, these white heroes are telling us, no, no, no. You can't get rid of bad elements from your society. This is your culture. We want you to keep your misogynistic, homophobic culture. They claim to stand against racism, but they are acting like worse than explicitly racist people. Because with the far right, everyone can see their racism. But with the far left, nobody can see their hidden racism. To quote Jacinta Price, the Aboriginal Australian politician, we cannot continue to romanticize culture, but we need to be very honest about what it involves. If a minority culture is racist, misogynistic, homophobic, anti-free speech, anti-free thinking, then you should attack it with all your might. Islam is all of those things. Therefore, ex-Muslims will attack it. You should join us too. But if you can't join us, then at least don't stop us. Now, I must confess, I also do not talk about Indigenous Australian issues because I also worry about being labelled as a racist and a bigot. But I would never stop heroes like Jacinta Price, who are trying to fix their society from within. And this is exactly what I ask of the Western liberals. If you cannot speak for us, then at least do not try to silence us. My friend Jamal Knutsen Yücel, founder of Ex-Muslims of Norway, is trying to do just that. He wants to speak against these inferior values of Islam, such as Islamophobia, such as homophobia, misogyny, hatred for apostates, FGM, honor culture. But not only he doesn't get any support from the state, but he's actively silenced. I see this as racism in its worst form, as though women's rights, LGBTQ rights, free speech, free thinking rights are only reserved for white folks. And us brown folks, we should just shut up and we should just put up with our culture of misogyny, homophobia, and anti-free speech. I have been told that 17% of Norway's population is made up of immigrants. That's good. I'm sure many migrants have done great things for Norway. My friend Shabana Gadar, who is also of Pakistani heritage and manages Fort Free. These are the immigrants you should stand up with. And as far as I know, people like Shabana also get attacked by far right and the far left when people like her make sense the most. Now that I have pointed out the importance of free speech, I want to use my free speech. I want to use my free speech to point out the absurdities of Islam. Absurdities of Islam, not necessarily the Muslims. I recognize most Muslims are carefree Muslims who don't only not know much about Islam, but also don't even take Islam seriously. Islam in its 7th century form is the most dangerous ideology today. 70 years ago, I would have said the same thing about communism and the Catholic Church for its alliance with Nazi Germany. But today, it is without a question Islam. It is Islam that is still insisting on keeping women at home, persecuting gays, and ex-Muslims like myself. There are 13 countries where punishment for apostasy or blasphemy is death, meaning no free speech and no free thinking. No other ideology, political or religious, is having such debates today. They have moved past it, but Islam is still stuck in the 7th century. One of the biggest points the Islamists and the regressive leftists make is that freedom of speech is not freedom to offend. It is one of the dumbest points these people can make. Freedom of speech is nothing but freedom to offend. If you say something that doesn't offend, then you are just appeasing the status quo. If you appease the status quo, what are you challenging? Imagine a democracy where the sitting government says, you cannot criticize us because it offends us or the people who support us. If you don't make comments that challenge the government and consequently offends them, what is the role of the opposition? Female genital mutilation is a problem in Africa and Europe. It is not a problem in countries like Pakistan or Malaysia. Would it be offensive to check Europeans of African heritage if their genitals have been mutilated in the name of practice, Islamic practice? I don't care if it's offensive or not, profiling or not. I don't care about it as much as I care about a little girl whose genitals have been mutilated and she will have to live the rest of her life with its consequences. I hear something like this did happen in Norway. A nurse checked a girl of Somali heritage if her genitals had been mutilated. Luckily, it hadn't happened, but the regressive left made a big fuss out of it. They called it racist and don't want other girls of African heritage to be tested. What are these people advocating? They're advocating female genital mutilation in the name of some vague, twisted case against racial profiling. I don't see it as a racial profiling. I see it as a cultural profiling, and I see nothing wrong with it. A blonde Swedish family is as much likely to practice female genital mutilation as a black African Muslim to be a member of a white supremacist group. We have limited resources, just like you wouldn't be wasting your resources questioning a black man to find out if he's a white supremacist. You shouldn't be wasting your resources in checking a white European girl for FGM. Of course, there will be some exceptions. We know FGM takes place in huge numbers in Europe. In Britain, for example, according to The Independent, the number could be as high as 100,000 girls. Almost all of them are done on Muslim girls, and not just any Muslim girls, but specifically Muslim girls of African heritage. Would it be wise to waste your resources in checking if a British girl, white British girl, has gone through FGM? No, it would be a waste of resources. It would be a waste of resources to even check Pakistani girls for FGM. There's nothing wrong in checking girls of African heritage if they have undergone FGM. And once it's been found out that girls' genitals have been mutilated, her parents should be put behind bars for a very long time. As far as I know, there hasn't been any convictions in Europe for FGM. Yet we have hundreds of thousands of girls who have had their genitals mutilated. Now you see the problem with the aggressive left. Of course, African Muslims will protest against any legislation that bans FGM or proposes penalty for the parents. But we have regressive left calling such legislations racist and bigoted. FGM is not just a cultural problem, but also a religious one. We have many sayings of the Prophet where he advocated FGM. One such saying is in Sunan Abu Dawud. A woman used to perform circumcision in Medina. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said to her, "Do not cut severely, as that is better for a woman and more desirable for a husband." So even in that part, there is an element of a male's desire and sexual pleasure. Or in Sahih Muslim, the Messenger of Allah said, "When anyone sits amidst parts of the woman and the circumcised parts touch each other, a bath becomes obligatory," obviously, which means that women have to be circumcised as well. That's just one section of that hadith. It's very long, and yes, Islam is obsessed with sex, especially when it comes to women. So you must be wondering, why don't the other non-African Muslims commit this crime on their daughters? Well, luckily, as in many other cases, most Muslims don't take their religion seriously. Although this can change very quickly, hence we have to talk about it. Now, there are many problems with the Qur'an, and FGM is just one of them. I wanted to speak about misogyny and homophobia and the condition of apostates as well, but I think safe to say I've overstayed my welcome. But I want to end this with a quote from a friend, Ali Rizvi, who wrote a foreword for my book. "When free thinkers in Europe challenged Christianity, we called it the Age of Enlightenment, and we benefit from it to this day. Now that free thinkers in the Muslim world are risking their lives and livelihoods to challenge Islam, it would be an injustice to call it anything else." Thank you.
Thank you for good speech.
Thank you.
I'm sure that a lot of people wondering the other question. So, why did you left the most humane and tolerant justice religion, Islam, Haris? Why did you leave?
My journey was quite different from a lot of them, and I would say I was quite lucky in that regard, that my parents were quite moderate, and they were nominal Muslims. They didn't care as much about it. There was a point when I actually became more religious than my own parents. Because in my case, I want to know if you are... By the way, are there any Muslims here. I see one sister there. So, Assalamu alaikum, sister. I really, I'm happy that you're here, and I don't hate you. I don't hate my own family is Muslim. I want Muslims to develop these relationships with us, and maybe we can exchange our ideas, and we can normalize this environment that we have of hostility, that either you're a Muslim, then I hate you, or I'm an ex-Muslim, then I should be hated or I should be killed. So thank you very much for coming here.
I think we can open mic this too.
Okay, I'm very happy that you're here, and I would have wished that there were more people here. So in my case, my family, as I said, were quite moderate, and I always had questions in my mind, and I have often told the story that when I was 9 years old, I asked my mother, the question was, where do these trees and planets and stars and moons come from? And they say, Allah created it. And then I thought that the natural question would be, then where did Allah come from? Who created Allah? I thought I was, for a very long time, I thought I was some genius kid who had just solved the biggest mystery of the universe. But when I spoke with other ex-Muslims, that was a pretty big question in everyone's journey. I'm sure you would have probably asked that at some point.
I'm curious about what your mother answered, because I asked the same question, and I'm sure that every children, we have common sense,
Yeah.
and it's a natural question.
Yeah.
When my mother said, Allah created everything,
Yes.
and I said to her, who is the father of Allah?
Yeah.
Just innocent question. And
Yeah.
she said to me, shh, don't ask like this question. We
Yeah.
don't know. This we cannot. Nobody created him. What your mother say?
Exactly the same thing, and it's a common solution, and you can see how, what is it, 1.8 billion, 1.6 billion Muslims, they immediately, in their minds, they just put a full stop, that you cannot think beyond that. I mean, how many brilliant Muslims who could have come out as scientists, as great philosophers, who would have discovered the mysteries of the universe, but that has gone to waste. How many billions of minds that have actually been wasted because we just couldn't talk beyond a certain part. So that was one of the questions, and then 15, 16, I became really a hardcore, devoted Muslim. I wrote that in my book in detail, that I almost became a jihadi. My father accidentally, my father, as I said, is a very modern, very liberal Muslim, and we thought, we ran into a friend who took us to Kashmir, which is as Bill Clinton called it, a nuclear flashpoint. He took us there. My father and I, we thought that, it's just going to be some beautiful sightseeing tour. But when we jumped in the bus, all we saw just men, bearded men, and we realized there's something wrong. I was 14 at that time, or maybe 15, and then we were taken to a camp where where Hafiz Saeed, who's a known terrorist, he showed us how he sends mujahideens across the border into Indian Kashmir, and how we should wage jihad and liberate our brothers and sisters. And the speech was so powerful, and this is why the age of 14, 15 is so important. I was becoming very religious, but I still had a comfortable bed. I still had warm showers and my own bedroom and access to movies and everything. So I had my luxuries. But now here we are in one big room. There's like probably half the size of this room, and 100 men are just sleeping on top of each other. So we had spent the night. But I was convinced by his speech, that I have to become a jihadi. I have to die for the cause of Allah and for my fellow Kashmiris. But luckily, my father got me out of there, and otherwise I would have been dead. So when I came back, and then I studied religion a little bit more, and then the other turning point in my case was when I moved to Australia. I moved to Australia, and I looked at people who were just fine. They were doing just fine without Allah in their lives. And these are not bad people. They're just as moral as anyone else, if not more moral than people in Pakistan. So I started looking into it, and at that point, I had all these questions brewing up, but there was no articulate answer to it. And then I ran into Richard Dawkins, and I read The God Delusion, hundreds of hours of his books, and Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens more so than Sam Harris. And then all these questions I had, these theological, philosophical questions, they were answered. At that point, I can't put a date to it, but I think I was probably 23, 24. That's when I became a convinced atheist.
Did you research or search the truth about Muhammad or Quran after you left Islam, or in the same period?
So in my case, the philosophy of God itself appealed a lot more to me, because I thought, if there is a God, and if he's cruel, he's an evil dictator, well, we just have to live with it. I can't argue with God that, hey, why are you doing this, or why your best person Muhammad has this and this issues. I can't argue that. He told me that I created this universe and this is how it is. So it's like a cosmic dictator. But in my case, the philosophy, the atheist narrative, and what is told to us by the other side, by the religious side, it just wasn't convincing enough for me. Afterwards, I read into the life of Muhammad, because up until that point, we were only told good stories about the life of Prophet. But then when you read other bits, these are not, I'm not talking about the ancient Islamophobes who are writing about the life of Muhammad, Ibn Ishaq, Al-Tabari, and the own Islamic literature has so much material that any Muslim who reads it, I think he's going to say, that's just not right.
But these so-called Islamophobes writing,
Yeah.
and we have to, I don't think we have to discredit what they are writing, because, for example, I read it, Spencer's book.
Yeah.
It's all thing he writing is true.
Yeah.
It is from
Yeah.
Ibn Ishaq, it's from Tabari, and the people calling him like racist or whatever, far right. But Robert Spencer wrote it, a very good book, and when I read it, I just remembered all things I read it. I wrote before.
Yeah,
so
I've got no problem with that, but I'm just saying that if you actually read the source of Islamic literature itself, there is plenty of material for you to see a lot of horrible things.
Just I believe because of Muslim people, I say my family too, all of us,
I said it that
they don't like to read, because Ibn Ishaq, for example, or Tabari, or Hadith books, they are big books. They are in the mosques, not for reading, just for decoration. Because if you read them, you have to use all your life almost, because of who say to who say to who say to who, one page. After that comes the point. So these people, actually, in Norway, we have one historian, Halvard Kjønn. I think he worked, 5 or 10 years to translate Ibn Ishaq to Norwegian, and he did a wonderful job. Small book, not too big, like take out all the garbage, like we don't need to read like this. We don't have in the Muslim countries.
And that's why it is actually important, because ignorance works in amazing ways. And if you can meet a perfectly nice, wonderful Muslim, and that's it. My family is Muslim too. And then people, it's a tendency that we relate with people. We see, okay, he's a nice person, he pays his taxes, doesn't break any laws. That's Islam. No, but that is not what Islam. And this is why we need to talk about, we need to see, we have our disagreements, we can point them out. Don't shut people down. Come back with a better counter-argument. Just say whatever you have to say, but unfortunately, I think they're losing this ground, because it's very hard to defend a marriage of a 53-year-old to a 9-year-old girl, for instance. It's very hard to defend when you say that you can behead under whatever pretense, under whatever the circumstances were, 700 Jews in one day. These things are very hard, and so what they can do, and I'm okay with that, what they can do is they can deny those historical accounts, and that's what the Reform Islam movement is all about. We have a different opinion in ex-Muslim community whether Reform Islam is good or is bad. I I'm not against reform of Islam. I would rather have people become atheists and leave all this baggage behind. But what comes out of the reformed Islam, if everyone is like a Muslim, like for example your mother, or like my mother, or the beautiful sister here who's sitting, if everyone is a Muslim like that, we don't have any problem. But we do get problem when we get huge number of people who say, well, Prophet married a 9-year-old girl, therefore I can marry a 9-year-old girl too. That's where the problem comes, and that's why that type of Islam, I think all of us should fight.
I think moderate Muslim people, the majority, unknowingly carrying the extremists or real Muslims.
But there's the other argument that they're actually feeding onto it as well, because if moderate Islam survives, then there's always room for hardcore Islam to be there as well. So that's a very valid argument that ideally, if all of Islam is gone, then then we wouldn't have to be discussing these issues.
Yeah, because we have the proof in the history in all these Muslim countries. Many times they became liberal or moderate countries, but the small minorities who say that like the truth Islam is here and we go now far away from the real Islam.
Yeah.
They managed to change everything. So it is something with this moderate, so-called moderate Muslims. Actually, you write in your book, when I read your book in the beginning, I think, oh my God, if some leftists in the West read this, they will judge you like you are one hater or Islamophobe. Because you said that, you wrote clearly that Muslims who unknowingly disagree with the values that fundamentalists in Islam have. The message you give that denounce your Islam or became like ISIS or Taliban.
Yeah.
I am totally agree with you, but of course, when people read one like this thing, they can judge you in the wrong way. Can you explain a little bit about that?
My position on that has slightly softened. Not in a sense. I still believe that there was only one version of Islam that Muhammad envisioned, and that was a horrible version of Islam. You could have beheading, you could have crucifixions, amputations of hand and feet. It's written in the Qur'an. So you can, if you read my book, and if there's a lot of, like, if I'm telling you explicitly how you should how you should punish your friend, for instance, you could make a pretty good estimate or an analysis of my personality. You could tell that, okay, this guy has got psychopathic tendencies, or he's very vindictive. So you can make a good estimate. So when we read the Quran, I think we can make a pretty good estimate of or an analysis of what kind of a person wrote this book. But the problem is, it's very vague in so many other instances, and it contradicts itself as well. So we go, okay, we have instances where Muhammad actually shows some kindness, and then he shows 600 Jews getting beheaded in one day. And then it has verses that, okay, whoever corrupts the land, amputate their hands and feet and opposite ends. Even, no one would, in this day and age, would do that. So he definitely had one version of Islam, and I think we should all be afraid of that. But there's a long line of scholars who have extrapolated different versions of Islam. There are over 100 sects in Islam right now, and they all have their own little things where they believe in certain bits, and some are good, some are bad. Wahhabis or Salafis are one extreme, which are really bad. ISIS is another extreme, which is really bad. But then you have some other versions of Islam. You have Sufism, you have Ahmadi Islam, which a lot of mainstream Muslims don't even acknowledge them. But there are versions that you can say, okay, so that's one version of Islam. So I don't think it would be fair to say that you should all become ISIS, even though I know I wrote that. But I've actually, as I said, I've changed my position on that. But
don't change. You have right, but you have to explain it. I believe that.
Yeah, look, as I said, it's up to people what they want to look, how they want to look into it, because I cannot ignore the multiple interpretations. And these are very intelligent scholars. They've spent their lives studying Islam from various sources, from various past classical scholars. So they must be onto something, but they get it wrong. Yeah, it's a pretty big call, I guess.
Janet, you have to just interrupt me. If I'm talking, I'm just talking all the time.
I am just listening, and the thing I actually felt when I was reading your book is that you're telling people who are reading this book that it is completely fine that you have doubts. It is completely fine that you're looking for logic. And it's a very encouraging book. I recommend everyone reads it. It's kind of a soothing thing when you're doubting and you don't know how to approach some of the hadith and some of the verses in the Qur'an. You kind of hold these people a little bit and tell them that it's okay. It's fine to use your logic to not agree with the scholars and not agree with these verses. And clearly, your book is very small compared to the knowledge you actually have. So it's very nice to hear you talk about the things that you know. And I have personally never felt like any version of Islam is as good as what the democracy was before Islam started to demand tolerance and planted the seed of corruption. So I agree with you. Needing Islam to be peaceful, you don't end up with Islam anymore when you change it. And the real Islam isn't really something to strive for.
Yeah, but this is a problem, right? I mean, why 1.8 billion Muslims are not like ISIS? So can we actually convince Muslims, all of them, and imagine the world we're going to create if we actually tell Muslims the real Islam is ISIS, so all of you should become like ISIS. Imagine the world we'll be living in. Like, I mean, it took us nearly 10 years to tackle a few thousand ISIS fighters. So I agree. If we look at the Quran itself and the early traditions of the book, we can see that that is probably the kind of Islam, but that doesn't exist. So it becomes a moot point. If majority of Muslims are saying we don't want to believe in that Islam, we want to believe in our own version of Islam, then let them be. Again, this is why for me I've always emphasized on the point that the religions none of them make sense to me, and this is why that the atheistic arguments made more sense to me rather than pinpointing the 9-year age difference. Because if you have a God who says it's okay to marry a 9-year-old girl, who are you to say you can't marry a 9-year-old girl? So and throughout human history those values have changed as well. But in the chapter that you're talking about, I want people to actually start. I don't tell them what to think. I want them to learn how to think, and I think our Muslim youth needs to understand that. There are two methods that I could think of that when it comes to thinking something. If you give a hypothesis, you can instantly reject it because it doesn't make sense to you, because you had other ideas, preconceived ideas, and this is against it, so you can reject it. That's number one. And I think a lot of people, we tend to do that whenever we hear something that it goes against our existing belief. The other method is you should listen to your opponent, whatever he's saying, and just assume for the moment, for the argument's sake, that whatever is being said is true. And then go back, verify it. Am I lying? Have I twisted the facts or not? And then I think that make up your mind. I mean, I believe in human intelligence enough that if we tell them eloquently enough that why child marriage is bad, no matter who says it, there might be a dictator up there for who it's perfectly fine to marry a 9-year-old girl. But if we tell people, and no matter which part of the world they come from, that this is bad for however biological reasons and physiological reasons, I believe in humanity that they would say, yeah, this is wrong. And this is why it's not even a problem in middle-class Muslim population. It always is a problem with less educated, less socioeconomically developed countries, etc.
I agree with you. I believe too, I believe that, this topic could be a whole seminar topic.
Right.
Denounce Islam or became ISIS, or what
Yeah.
is Islam, can be reformed or not, etc., etc. But I don't believe if they realize the truth about Islam, that they will become ISIS. Because I'm trusting people. We know these people are good people. And just because of they are not good Muslims, means not that Islam is a good thing.
I agree.
This is the Islamic problem. Majority of Muslim people are good people. It's your neighbor, my.
They're very bad Muslims, though.
Yeah, but we have to, every time in Islam debate, we have to talk about the Muslims and Islam are two different things. And I'm really sometimes very tired about that.
Yeah. I want to add on that, that I did write quite a lot in my book that good Muslims are bad humans, and bad Muslims are good humans. What I mean by that is, if you're a good Muslim, if you're following Muhammad's Islam, you're going to end up a really bad person. You're going to be marrying little girls, you're going to have a lot of sex slaves, you're going to do waging war on neighboring tribes and beheading their men and taking their women as your slaves. That would be a good Muslim. But as I said, it'd be bad human. But if you're a bad Muslim, you consequently become a good human. You value women's rights. You will now we're seeing a lot of LGBTQ movements taking place in the Muslim world, and these people are consequently becoming good, more tolerant human beings. But the Islam that we see, they're the bad Muslim from that point of view.
I agree.
And I also just got to mention that a lot of jihadis have a lot of education, very highly educated engineers, doctors, and so on.
Baghdadi has a PhD. ISIS's Khalifa, Baghdadi, has a PhD.
Yeah. So it's not only just people without education or financial support that become jihadis.
Yeah.
And back to your book, you have own chapter for depression and baggage of religion. You are writing very good. And I read that one episode with you and Hope,
Yeah.
the girl from Pakistan.
Yeah. Well, she was from Thailand, actually.
Okay.
I had been speaking to her. So the biggest problem that I see, that when people, especially a lot of these questions happen at the ages of 16, 17, 18, when they're going through this identity crisis. There's a psychologist who coined the term, Erik Erikson. He spoke about it, and then Jeff Marcy detailed more about it, that what are the stages of identity crisis. But the point is, in short, that actually happens between the ages of post-adolescence. When they realize that this is all a lie to us, and I've spoken to thousands of ex-Muslims through my social media. The worst thing that we see is some sort of a depression hits them. Not only the fact that they've all been lied to, this world all of a sudden doesn't make sense to them, because the way they grew up thinking that, there's right and wrong, good and evil, there's Big Brother watching us, and like he's going to help us when we're sad, he's going to make us pass our exams, when all of that comes shattering down on them, they go through depression. And I received so many messages, and Hope was one of those people, but Hope was unique in that case. She had a journey. She left mainstream Islam and got into Baha'i. Do they call it Islam as well, some people? And now she became familiar with my work, and she became an atheist. Now, she was 40-something, and she had 3 daughters. She thought that, I don't see any purpose of life. I mean, I'm just sad all the time. I'm crying all the time because I've lost this connection with the thing that was the holiest to her, which was her God. So she, you speak to God all the time, and 5 times you pray, and then after that you ask God for favors. You're basically speaking with him, and you've lost this connection. You've taken that away from us. So depression hit a lot of people, and I think that's why I've written that in detail in the book. how people should address that. I mean, everyone at some point has gone through depression in their lives, and I mean, I'm not an expert on that, so I always say that if you do go through depression, you should not give up, and you should seek professional help.
Because I find myself a little bit inside that, because you know, in Islam, you've been told all from the start, you know, only lies, and they scare you, like with the hellfire, with burning in all the time, and later children learn that you have to pray 3 times that, 3 times that, 4 times that, 7 times that. You have to use right hands for this, left hands for this. Always the repetition, you know, 3, 4, 5. My mother all the time said 3 times Subhaneke, 1 time Fatiha.
Yeah.
I have to read in all my childhood, you know. And I remember when I left Islam, it was a little bit problematic for me because I didn't believe with God. But sometimes suddenly, automatically, like I pray it suddenly. I say, what the fuck? What are you doing? You know, I'm not believing this. But this is like one period. If I don't think, if ex-Muslims, especially young ones, if they don't have like a community, like ex-Muslim community, or like somebody supports them, then I believe they go into depression.
Yeah,
and this is easy, very, very easy to...
And this is why I think it's the responsibility of ex-Muslims in the Western world to actually speak about these issues. And this is why I actually came out as well. In Pakistan, it's not only your immediate family. So your parents will be quite disappointed that you have left Islam. But in Muslim countries, it's not only your family, but also the state can come after you. I mean, the story of Spartacus is quite harrowing. Like for 8 years, he was a fugitive. He was moving from house to house. He was always paranoid, not keeping a phone, just thinking that there's going to be a knock on the door. It's kind of like a Stalinist era where, you know, like there could be a knock on the door at 1 a.m. and you could be taken away and you would never be heard of again. And so as a result, a lot of people, a lot of ex-Muslims who I communicate with in Pakistan, they just don't come out. And that's a build-up. I mean, we can't, in the West, we can't even imagine being told to shut up, you know. I mean, we said, well, no, I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk. But this is such suffocating environment that these people, these young children at 18, 19, they just can't talk about it, and it just blows up. I had people who were on my friends list I used to follow. There's 2 teenage ex-Muslims who have actually committed suicide in Pakistan. And their friends are saying that this is, you know, like they were depressed, and it could be exacerbated by other reasons as well. But this could be one of the reasons as well. And, you know, and nobody knows about it. Nobody talks about these things. And the sad part is also in the West, we have this problem. Yeah. I mean, you are trying to do this work. You're trying to build a community. So I hear there's a huge Pakistani community in Norway. I'm quite certain there would be a lot of ex-Muslims in Norway as well, and they should be coming.
You know, Haris, we get so many messages from a lot of ex-Muslims, from the young ones to very old ones. But you know, we are living in 2019 in Norway, and I understand them. I don't blame them. They're writing, "Hi, my name is this, and I'm from this origin, and I'm ex-Muslim. I support you so much, but I cannot come out." You know, in 2019, then
and in Norway.
In Norway.
In the Western country,
you know,
how...
You know, Western, I will put all these messages and blur their face and names and publish, like an article one day. But, you know, the Westerners cannot imagine even. Today, in 2019, in the majority of Muslim countries, somebody cannot sit even in the cafeteria with loud voice and say, "I don't believe Allah. Allah is nothing."
And nothing
they cannot. They cannot. Trust me. We can experiment this. We can go somewhere and, you know, in my city, I'm coming from one city, middle of the Turkey, and 300,000 people living. I call this small city. 300,000 people.
Wow.
And I have never heard And I never saw someone insulted Muhammad, Prophet, Allah, Quran, whatever. And I never saw anyone leave with Islam in all my life. Because this is a taboo, and you are writing too. We cannot go forward if we cannot broke this taboo.
Yeah.
So we have to speak, and Westerners especially have to understand that who we are and why we're standing for, why we are doing this. Sometimes I think, do you think they have lack of knowledge, or they have some agenda? Why in the West we have so much problems to advocate apostasy in Islam?
I think
And blasphemy.
I think it's lack of knowledge. It's totally lack of knowledge.
But they are professors, many of them.
But that's the same thing with the what you call the carefree Muslims.
Yeah, carefree Muslims,
the
yeah.
carefree Muslims in Pakistan. We learn how wonderful Muhammad was. We don't learn anything that's actually written in the Quran and the Hadith. We learn these beautiful stories about this peaceful Jesus-like figure. And they believe them. And when you then try to tell them the truth, they say you don't have the right to criticize. And these people, they don't check for sources. They just believe it because it keeps their life peaceful. And a lot of Norwegians, they really believe they don't have the right to criticize Islam because they don't have enough knowledge. And when they gain the knowledge, the ignorant Muslims, they don't believe them. And they accuse them for spreading hate. It's a lot of ignorance, and the miscommunication appears because of this.
It feels like I feel a lot of Westerners they wish and they want that Muslim people will be Muslim.
Yeah.
They have to stand there as believers.
Yeah.
You understand? This is I feel why they can.
As I said, there's bias that that we want to respect cultures. We want to be able to see that we have cultures. We need to protect minorities from racism, and Europe has paid a huge price for not doing that in the past. But so that's why there might be a little bit of a white guilt when it comes to that. That okay, we even though someone was telling me that Norway hasn't colonized or anything, but collectively we've seen that there is this concern that we have to protect cultures. What they overlook in that process is that some cultures really have bad elements in that. Like I quoted this Aboriginal problem that we had, and I've never spoken about it before because we're not encouraged to criticize the Aboriginal culture in Australia, because for right reasons as well, Aboriginals have suffered a lot in Australia. So no whites or even non-Aboriginals don't criticize it. But now this Aboriginal politician, she herself is pointing out some bad practices within the culture. But the Westerners of Australia, they're saying, no, you cannot do this. You cannot talk about it because we have to protect the Aboriginals. They have to understand that you have to protect your humanity first. All the cultures eventually, to me, they mean absolutely nothing. I mean, I'm not a big fan of preserving languages or cultures, or in that sense, in a sense that it divides people. In India, we have, 200 languages. In Pakistan, we have 10 different languages, and they're so different from each other that they're not even, they're just Pakistanis by name, so to speak, and their values are different. They look at things, their right and wrong is different, and as a result, what kind of a society we get. But the Westerners have this problem of, as I said, they want to protect cultures, and in the process, they end up protecting bad elements in that culture too.
I used to feel like Islam didn't matter much unless my parents had to control me and not allow me to have free thoughts and my Norwegian rights. That's when I felt like Islam became important to them. Because every time they wanted to limit my freedom, they could find something from the Qur'an and Hadith to stop me. So
I had, on that note, I had one of my aunties used to get beaten by her husband, and obviously, like however scholars try to defend it, that, oh, this is not the kind of a beating Quran says. Quran basically just says you can beat your disobedient wives. So I asked my auntie once, I said, did you ever, because this is like all this information I was absorbing, that hang on, I mean, of course there are Muslim men who beat their wives because the Quran says that. I said, and so I asked my auntie, why are you Muslim? The God you're worshipping, he allowed you to be beaten by your husband. I said, did you ever confront your husband about that? She said, yeah, he actually showed me the verse of the Quran. So he actually knew it. He said, look. so the point is, he actually knew that you can do it. And the scholars say different things. Now, because that's what I said, they cannot. How else are you going to defend wife beating? They say, well, the wife beating just means beating with a handkerchief. Now, that is an insult on its own as well. What do you think? Like, I mean, a woman is so stupid that she disagrees with you over something, and then you're just going to beat her with a handkerchief, and she's going to change her mind. That's not how it works. No. And so any which way they see it, it's disturbing. And this is why, I mean, I want... the biggest thing that bothers me a lot, that even in the ex-Muslim movement, I'm seeing a lot of men are coming out as ex-Muslims. So it could be just an initial phase, but I've seen women aggressively defend Islam, especially when I tell them that their statement is worth half of that of a man. Muhammad quite categorically said that women are inferior in intellect. They are dumber than men. And even in that case, women still defend Islam, and that's a major disappointment. And I think the only thing that I can think of is the social conditioning to a point that you've raised them in such a way that they just cannot rebel. It's a Stockholm syndrome kind of a situation.
I believe this is like the Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, when we're talking about FGM, mothers is the problem.
Yeah.
Mothers who have experienced it, FGM on their self, they are very aggressive to do to their daughters, not the father generally. So this is like Stockholm syndrome. I saw too many. Like, I just want to remind you that ex-Muslims of North America have started one hashtag campaign some days ago. It is hashtag awesome without Allah. If you write on Facebook or Twitter, you will see a lot of videos from ex-Muslims around the world who telling you why it is awesome without Allah. So there I saw many reactions, especially from Muslim women. They say, you are not Muslim anymore, why you are still talking about Islam?
Yeah.
Or Westerners coming sometimes, the leftist. I have to name, right. They are the leftist. If they are rightist, I will say they are rightist, because I get criticizing sometimes. I get critic against me. They say, why you people call yourself ex-Muslim? To us, Westerners say that. Why you call yourself ex-Muslim, Haris? I asked everyone, because we have to teach them.
It's such a ridiculous argument. I mean, the common argument is say, okay, well, they are ex-Christians. They just call themselves atheists. They don't call themselves ex-Christians. Well, because they don't have to. There are no Christian countries anywhere in the world, even in Africa, that actually kill you for just being an atheist. So there are 13 countries in the Muslim world. How are we, who are living in the Western world, supposed to reach out to our fellow Muslim brothers in those Muslim countries that it's okay, you're not alone? If you're thinking, every ex-Muslim from 5-6 years ago, or every ex-Muslim I met, they all thought that when they started having doubts in Islam, they thought they were the only ones. Because there was, who else are you going to say? You had Salman Rushdie maybe, and Ibn Mubarak was in the closet. That's it. Even I was impressed by people like Richard Dawkins. I didn't find any other connection with Richard Dawkins in terms of, that's probably why the atheist argument made sense to me. But Richard Dawkins doesn't address or didn't address any problems with Islam. My problem was with Islam. I wanted more problems that I have with Islam to be addressed, and there was no connection. But now, the ex-Muslim word alone is doing so much, and that we are so happy that this is spreading like wildfire. There was a study done in BBC that actually I shouldn't quote this, but there was 10 percentage point across the Arab countries where people have actually left Islam. In the United States, we say 1 in 3 or 1 in 4. It's 1 in 4, I think.
I think 1 in 4. Yeah.
1 in 4 Muslims born in America have now left Islam. In Pakistan, it's a Gallup study that was done in 2015, I believe, that there were 2% of Pakistani population were ex-Muslims, and that had doubled from 2009. So this is happening. 2% might not seem much to you. That's 4 million people. That's a huge number just in a country like Pakistan, who are just convinced atheists. Now, and that also happened in 2000. Actually, that happened in 2012, not 2015. So 7 years ago that happened. I'm curious to see what are the statistics in 2019. I am more than confident that would have doubled even from 2%. The same thing happening in Saudi Arabia. Same thing's happening in Malaysia. Turkey is just a weird conundrum. So you need to do something.
They are going to deism. In
Yeah.
Turkey now is instead of leaving Islam and became an atheist, they are going to they living Islam but not the God.
Yeah.
But they live in Allah. So they became like deists movement, and this is very big now. Erdogan is very upset about that, and he don't know what he will do.
It's still a progress in some form.
Yeah, it's progress.
So it's a good thing. So that alone is being brought forward by the title ex-Muslim. I think ex-Muslim. This is why there's so many people actually love and admire Maryam Namazi. She really globalized this term, and it's only 10 years old, this term, 2007 or 2006?
11 years old. The first organization come in Germany.
Yeah, that's right.
Right after, I think, less than 1 year later, Maryam started.
Yeah, but because Maryam did that in Britain, in
very
English,
good.
it actually became globalized.
Yeah,
So with
right,
Germany,
right.
nobody was aware of it. But yeah,
Right, that's right. And now today is ex-Muslims organization in the almost all around
every country,
the world. In Europe, not in the Muslim countries, but from Australia to America to England.
We have
England.
we have Atheist Republic that has 2.5 million followers. Atheist Republic, what they call it, consulates. There are Atheist Republic Lahore consulate, Karachi consulate. There are people from Lahore, Karachi, the cities of Pakistan. They have people just organizing meetups. But it is still always risky. The government is just turning a blind eye for now. But if they ever want to, Facebook actually gives the data to Pakistani agencies. We had, in 2017, we had many bloggers arrested in Pakistan. And Facebook directly gave them the data. How can you actually see that the Silicon Valley in the United States colluded with the Pakistani government that these guys are writing against Islam here, and then it's no surprise they were arrested, they were tortured, they were sodomized, Ayaz Azami is a famous one, he's still in prison for 2-3 years, and we don't know what's happening.
It is, of course, one progress, but it is a long way to go still, because of everybody don't understand, like I said, because they don't know. Islam have never been in the age of enlightenment. In Europe in 400 years, we have many philosophers, Voltaire and Kant and everyone, we are very proud of. But in the Muslim countries, we didn't have that. And this is now, I believe, that start some kind of age of enlightenment in the Muslim world.
Yeah.
Because of internet.
Yeah.
Because we have all the sources in front of us, we can just Google it.
Yeah.
But then we have to be supported by the Westerners, and they have to understand that it is the same way we are going, like Christianity been through. And I think we can get questions before, because today we have to be
quick.
So If you have some questions, he will come with microphone. There is, yeah, you can.
My name is Daoul. I'm not a Muslim. But I wonder, because you call yourself an atheist, and if I think about the Christian development, I mean, you're talking about the age of enlightenment and all that, I think there are many Christians today that don't believe that Jesus Christ walked on the water. So there are many different kinds of Christianity. You have the Jehovah's Witness, which they call themselves Christian, and they believe every word in the Bible, which actually I think is a little similar to what you think about the Muslim world is doing. So I was wondering, is it, yeah, you maybe have answered already, but I was looking for a more softer version of Muslim, Islam. You say you are an atheist. There are many people who think there is a God, and there might be Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, whatever they are. And isn't that possibility also in Islam? I know Islam is a very much a law religion, and they've written down everything what you can do or not do, more or less, as I understood. But isn't it possible to be, yeah, you refer to your mother and family and all that, but, and they're not bad people. So isn't that, and you talk about the ignorance, that they don't know what is written in the Qur'an. But isn't it possible to be a sort of a soft, I mean, believe in God or Allah, and still be a Muslim and be a nice person, but they don't need to take all the 9-year-old girl as an example. They don't need to take that seriously. Is that possible?
I certainly think that it is possible, but what it does, and as I said, like, I mean, there are a lot of Muslim countries, for example, Turkey as well. Malaysia historically has been quite moderate. There hasn't been any problem with child marriages. Even in Pakistan, which has been influenced by a lot of Indian culture, so there's no culture of polygamy, even though Islam categorically allows you to have multiple wives. And so we certainly have pockets within Islamic civilization where there are soft Muslims who just believe in Muhammad is the greatest man who ever lived, Allah is their God, and let me go to work, and that's it. That's how it is.
And pray 5 times.
Yeah, and pray. No, look, I mean, a lot of Muslims make a lot of excuses not to pray either. They don't fast either. There's so many Muslims. They're just like anyone else that don't want to wake up.
Drinking alcohol, have sex without.
Well, look, that could be extreme too. But even within that, they may not even do that thing. But they could just avoid prayers. A lot of my cousins, they're all firm believers in Allah, but they don't pray, they don't fast, they don't do any of these things. They just say, well, we are Muslim, our name is Muslim. It's become a point of a stubbornness for them that this is their identity, and they don't want to lose it. So it can definitely happen, but the downside to that is that a lot of critics of Islam actually say that allows Islam to flourish in some shape or form. And it always has a chance of making a comeback, like Jamal said, and it happened in Iran. Iran was a fairly liberal society, and then it came back. Afghanistan was a pretty liberal society. It came back. Pakistan was much more liberal in the 60s and 70s, and it came back.
Afghanistan.
Yeah. So these countries have suffered a lot. Now, whole generations of have grown up thinking that, okay, that is the Islam that we should follow. It is a setback, but I also do believe that eventually things will normal itself out. But again, what are we doing? We're doing this. We're playing yo-yo with human civilization. This is why I would rather have Islam gone altogether.
You know,
a religion gone altogether.
I don't think we can compare Christianity and Islam to find out how we can get one soft Islam like Christianity. You know, because of, I think there is huge differences. Christian purpose, when I talk with them, debate with them, they not ignoring, they are not denying that a lot of absurdity in the Bible. They say they are pick and choose. they say, no, I don't believe the whole Bible. But in Islam, we have even if some soft Muslim never read the Quran, they never say that Quran is wrong. Whatever, I didn't read, but I believe in. Every word of the Quran is from Allah. We have some problems with Islam, and it is possible, yes, even not just possible, it is here.
No,
The hypocritical Islam is here. Majority of Muslim people have some kind of Islam does not exist. They have this. But then we get the extremists all the time from inside there. Extremists not born like extremists. They are coming from moderates. One time they were moderates, each of them. But I mean is that without telling the truth to all Muslims, we cannot find out one soft religion, like Islam can become one soft religion. I don't believe that. Because first they have to know the truth. And they don't know the truth, the majority of them. I can promise that they don't know.
The flip side to that is that, yes, Christianity and Islam work on different principles. Quran, literal word of God, everything is set in stone, you cannot change it. But I think it's human, and Christians on the other hand say Bible is the word inspired by God, so we can fiddle with it. But the human nature is, whenever we see something wrong, we use our own intellect. As I gave you an example of wife beating. I mean, if it says you need to discipline your disobedient wife by beating her, of course, someone is going to read it and is just going to beat the hell out of her. And on the other hand, the Muslim women who would say, well, maybe it was okay back in that time. Maybe it's just a handkerchief. Maybe it's just with a feather. So they are making excuses to make Islam more compatible with the current world. So that shows you their intent, that they do want to hold the Quran close to their heart as well, but also at the same time live with the times of the being. So that's why I think it is possible to some extent, but on the larger picture, it is always dangerous. This is why I am an atheist. I'm not a reformed Muslim. They always have a chance of making a comeback. Even Christianity does that. In America, you've got abortion being made illegal purely on religious grounds. There's no better reasoning involved. It is for religious grounds, and that's why I think religions should just go away anyway. But in my view, I think it is possible, but it's not the ideal situation.
I agree.
Moral doesn't need religion, neither wrote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because one thing
No,
more.
it is written beautifully. I don't want to give you too many spoilers about the book, so if you wish to read it, that's all.
I mean, if I will not be politically correct, that it is wrong to wish that somebody can live with a lie if we just change this lie a little bit and make it something nice. I mean, we, humanity, have wasted their time many thousand years because of these dogmas, all religions, not only Islam. I mean that. And it is the time that people can have in their mind and believe whatever they want, but we don't need to support financially, we don't need to have the laws, state laws who protected some beliefs. We don't need these things, I mean, not only Islam, but generally about. I don't wish that Islam will be one soft lie instead of one hard lie. It is a lie, and people don't need to live with that. But they can decide. But we need to tell the truth that we know, and they have to accept that we have right to tell what we are thinking, because they are missionarying their religion everywhere, and we have the right to tell that advocating the apostasy or denouncing Islam have to be normal. So that's just my thing.
Islam is not a religion.
Okay, you can get the microphone there if you want. This. Yeah.
I was getting old here. Anyway, my last very important question. My name is Moses. I come from Galilee, Israel, and I'm Jewish, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
So my very, very important question for you, we have been talking about the past and history and all great. My very important question for you, it's about the future. Where are we going? Me as an Israeli, where are we going when Europe getting filled up with Muslims? Of course, radical Muslims is only 25-30%. That will make it 400 million radical Muslim. When they say that ISIL, Islamic State, they stole Islam and they kidnapped Islam, it's not the real Islam, it's the opposite. Those who really, really, really take Islam serious, ISIL, Islamic State, they are the only that really, that's what happened when you really take Islam serious and you do exactly what Islam tell you or the Quran tell you. So I don't know, I'm asking you the future because our fight with, the thing with the Nazis took like, what, 10 years? And it was over. And Mein Kampf is like forbud, it's like taboo. But the Quran is still allowed. And the war, Islam against the Jews, is 1400 years. It started with the Jews, as you say, destroying 3 villages and taking the kids and the women's and the money, and then Islam can just flourish. So my question for you, of the Brexit of Britain. Brexit of Britain is not about economy and no, it's about immigration. And when they say immigration, they don't mean the Filipinos. They mean Islam. The whole Brexit things from Britain, they're afraid of Islam to be filled with Islam. Because when country is 30% Muslims, it's finished. And you can see it in all the history. So my question for you, where are we heading as an Israeli? What our chance to survive in the Middle East when we are abna al-karana wa khanazir? We are the sons of pigs and apes. The Jews are the sons of pigs and apes. Very interesting. All the prophets of Islam, all the prophets of the Quran are Jews. Moses and Abraham and David and Solomon and Jesus, they're all Jews. And they are pigs and apes. So what is our chance to survive in the Middle East? Very important question.
Who wants that?
Okay. I think you should.
I can say a few words and then you can take
Okay.
over.
Well.
I'm just going to say this, that we are all in the same boat, we who are criticizing the Prophet Muhammad, basically. Actually, that's what this is about, criticism of Islam. Because it's about Muhammad. It's about all the things he claims Allah has permitted him to do. Kill people who don't obey him, basically. And our governments don't let us criticize Muhammad because it upsets Muslims. They claim it upsets Muslims, so we are not allowed to criticize it. And the Islamic spokespeople, they agree with this because politically it gives them the power they need to keep corrupting other minds, younger people. But I say that ISIS is the only one in this world who has made the cartoon of Muhammad that is accurate and is ridiculous. There has been no one else who has made a cartoon of Muhammad as lively as ISIS has done, because they have shown the whole world what Muhammad looks like. And all of us who are not favored by Islam, we are in the same boat. So wherever we are heading in the future, we are going there together.
I think time will change and it will get better. You as an Israeli need to protect your Israel. Because otherwise you'll be prepared to pay jizya for the rest of your generations. Right. My view on Israel is a little bit more complicated as well. So I mean, I'm not in favor of the settlements, but I do believe in the right of a Jewish state, Israel, to exist. I do believe in that. As Spana said, that wherever we're going to go together. I do think that there is an age of enlightenment happening in the Muslim world. I'm seeing the numbers. They still might seem very small, but next 10 years, what's going to happen? and you only need a small vocal minority to change an opinion. I remember in Pakistan, in 2004 and 5, Pervez Musharraf at that time, who was a big proponent of enlightenment moderation, and he wanted to bring Pakistan out of this sudden hold of Islamism. And he even floated the idea, and it was debated on Pakistani television. Pakistan is one of the few countries that doesn't recognize Israel as a state, which is totally stupid when so many Arab countries do that too. And he talked about it's about time we should recognize Israel as a state and open some sort of a communication with them. But then again, the mullahs and everything got onto him, and then he lost power anyway as well. And now I'm seeing the geopolitics. This is a political issue just as much as it's a religious one as well. And I think as enlightenment moderation happens, as people become less and less serious about Islam and even start leaving Islam, these people are not going to go anywhere. There will be Pakistanis, from 4 million Pakistanis, there will be 10, 15 million ex-Muslim atheists who will actually have a say in the Pakistani politics, and that is happening all across the Muslim world. So I think times might improve.
Yeah. I don't know. Nobody knows what future will bring.
Be brave.
I will be very brave. I start very politically correct first. But the reality is, as long as Western politicians support Islam, for they are doing in many different ways, every country, and they are denying to see what is real Islam and how dangerous it is, first of all to the Muslims, and later all the non-believers, because Muslims are the first victims of Islam. And as long as they continue with the same migration, integration politics which they had in last 40 years, then his future is dark, very dark. What can happen? Okay, if I will be realistic, one day will come, maybe we will have new Bosnia in the Scandinavia, new Bosnia because Bosnia-Herzegovina is not more than 400 years old country, 400 or 600, I don't remember. Before that, there were no Muslim, no Islam, nothing. This is the Turkish. I'm from Turkey. We have the history. We're learning in the school. We got the Muslim country, and then we became one war, and many people died in both sides. I don't want like these things will happen to Europe. I saw Europe all the time light. When I was in Turkey, I saw Europe there, and I look up. It is free country. The people who develop it, develop themselves. I want to live this free country. I want to be like them. Nobody need to integrate me to any country. Just if I want. And I wish to be integrated in Norway and became one Norwegian. If every Muslim person thought like this and want this, it's no problem. But we have one integration problem. This is because of Islam. Islam not allowed to you to become one non-Muslim like them. It's so easy. As long as less religious Muslim became, if Muslim became less religious, we will have less problems. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking, okay, Muslims, but this is the reality. Islam, luckily, majority of Muslims not taking serious Islam, so they are not living Islam in Islamic way, and this is a good thing. But problem is our future is dependent on the governments and Western countries' politics, immigration, integration, and up to them, they will support ex-Muslims or not. Because I see that the future is ours, if they allowed us. Because only peaceful way to make Islam, soft Islam, or non-Islam, it's us. And in the 2019, now we are here and we are everywhere. It never happened before. And now when I speak here, my words will go down to Turkey, down to Somalia, Pakistan, everywhere. We have the power internet. So we need support if you want to fix the problem peacefully in the future.
Just on that note, I want to say it's not only whether governments support us or not. This is just something so beautiful that goes through human social evolution, that ideas just float. Even the dictators have not been able to suppress ideas. It may look like that they're powerful. Saudi Arabia can behead and torture ex-Muslims, but it's not going to go on forever. There are still ex-Muslims in Saudi Arabia. There's still ex-Muslims in Pakistan, and we are growing.
And just to add that, I mean, it's not that government have to support us financially or something like that.
Narrative.
No,
You meant
I
narrative.
don't mean that. I mean that they have to stop. They have to look at the mosques. Which books these mosques have inside the mosque? Which books? The books who condemn the Jews, who say Jews are the pigs. The book who say you cannot be friends with the non-believer. The book is condemning Jews and the Christians in daily basis, 17 times. We are praying 5 times in a day. And the hypocritical Muslim people don't know even what they're reading. My mother don't know. She is a Turkish woman and illiterate. She is reading the Fatiha every day.
So we're living in a Christian country when the Muslims everywhere in the world, not only here, pray 5 times against
Yes.
the Jews.
Which,
Hate the Christian, and 5 times a day they curse the Christian.
yes,
First we'll deal with
but
Saturday,
just let me, okay.
then we'll deal with Islamic.
Yeah, I mean is that Muslims have to, you know, Muslim people have to learn the truth. Why? Because then they can shame out their self out of Islam, the common sense. When you curse the Christian and Jewish 5 days in a day, 17 times, and the Western all countries look at that, Islam is one religion like Christianity. We have respect. No, my friend, it's not the same. Which other religion cursing and saying the bad things against the other people? You know, Islam condemning me, Islam condemning even Christians, Jewish, the other like non-known religions even. It's not existing today. You know, so we have to tell the truth. And this is not about the people, okay? Not my Muslim, in the name people who calling themselves. But we have danger Muslims too. The Dawa people. Islam Net in Norway. You know, they're supporting the stoning to death. And they are not hypocrites. They are right. They are following their religion. So I don't know. I'm sometimes very depressive. But I believe common sense can win. But how? Then we have to do something right. We have to stop talking right and left. I'm really pissed up. I don't like right, I don't like left, and I don't care in the West. Okay? And don't bring the right and left inside the Islam debate. We have no Islam debate. We have never. Can you believe that? In Norway, Muslims are existing in 45, 50 years. Maybe 60 years, I don't know. We have never had a debate, theological debate. It's important. We are talking about hijab, burqa, we are talking about FGM, we are talking about child hijab, forced marriage. But we never talk like one imam sitting there, one ex-Muslim, or one other guy. No, nothing. Islam is a part of Norway today. Is it? Yes, true. It is part of Norway, and it is part of Europe. Then we have to start now. We have to take the same fight that you did in 400 years ago against Christianity, have to do today the same way. Make the movie Life of Abdul. Where is this? Where is the Life of Abdul? No, I'm sorry. Okay. More question? But it was, thank you for coming. Thank you. One thing more. I hated Jewish in all my life, half of my life. I hated Jewish people, without any reason, just because they told me. But today I love them, because I'm not Muslim.
Before the question, he said that he allow a Jewish state to exist, and he tells us, but I don't like the settlement. And he means the Jewish settlement. Where? In Judea. So Jews are not living.
This is another debate. I understand him.
I can talk about.
Jews come from Judea. If we are not allowed to live in Judea, where are we going to live in? Arabia? Jews from Judea, Arabs from Arabia. I'm not to live. You're calling me an occupier in my own state.
No, I don't
We
think.
can, maybe we can talk about it on a drink.
Yeah. Just for argument, that I myself, I'm supporting very much. Maybe you don't, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. But I'm supporting Israel's existence. But I hate to debate the conflict, you know, because they made it so much thing that the Western countries, especially the left wings, now supporting the ultra-religious people who want to destroy every Jewish, and the other side, right wings, maybe do that. And I don't. We can have a one new debate about Israel and existence of Israel and the conflicts, but it's difficult to answer.
But it's a problem about the faith of Islam. That's what the problem is. This isn't just Palestine and Israel. This is also Kashmir. This is also Serbia and Bosnia. It's everywhere.
That's why you should be atheist.
But you know, in the Quran, Allah promised Israel, the land of Israel, to the Jews. Yes. It is in the Quran. What we are talking about. So all Muslims have to say welcome. Yeah, I know. I know. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Any other
I think
questions?
one more question, then we have to finish.
Any other questions?
Or two more.
How does this work? This works.
Yes.
You come from Australia, and Shamal talked about soft Islam, and in Australia there is this, I would call it Facebook figure, Imam Tawhidi. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah, we're good friends. Yeah.
Yeah, is he kind of influencing the Muslim world, or is he just a figure for the non-Muslims?
I know it's difficult to answer.
It is difficult. Well, Imam Tawhidi and I are friends, and he's a great supporter of ex-Muslim movement, and he's always supported me. But I have to be honest here, and I think he has become more of a figure for far right, or not even far right, or for non-Muslims who don't understand Islam, and he feeds certain narratives with their critical. Sometimes it seems like he only dislikes Sunni Islam, and he has a Shia Islam because he's a Shia Imam, and he supports that. He's against Islamism, jihadism, and all of that, but then he smuggles in reformers like Imam Hussein. And if he wants to reform Islam, I think we ex-Muslims probably have bigger reach now in the Muslim community than he does, because Muslims look at him, you are an Imam, you should know what Islam is. And then also he comes, as I said, he comes from a Shia background, which is already a very small percentage. It's only 5% of Shias across. But the majority is Sunni Islam. So Sunnis have this bias against Shia. They don't even take Shia seriously. There are hierarchies within the ex-Muslim community as well. If you're an ex-Muslim from a Sunni background, you get heard a lot more. And if you're ex-Muslim from a Shia background, nobody takes you seriously. So I don't know. I think my friend Amin has a more stronger opinion on that, and he says, well, ex-Muslims have a lot of ex-Muslims, atheists to show for, whereas reformers don't really have much to show for. There's Majid Nawaz in Britain. He's doing work as well, but I'm not sure how successful they are. I really can't tell.
You know, I followed him long time, and I've shared a lot of videos of Imam Tawhidi. Although I'm very disagree with Imam Tawhidi, because he say he's a Muslim, and in the same time he's apologist actually for Shia Islam, the truth Islam he have. But I like these people, you know. I like when they do something right. At one point, I disagree with them for one point: theological Islam. There I disagree. All of it. But the other hand, these people are very important, I believe. Imam Tawhidi, the Christian, do you know Christian Prince? He's a Christian, Arab.
A YouTuber, yeah.
I disagree with him about his belief, but I support him so much because he exposes Islam more than me, more than any ex-Muslim, and he making ex-Muslims on the live chat even. You know, people denounce Islam. On the other hand, for example, the Pakistani guy in Canada, the old
Tariq
man,
Fateh.
Tariq Fateh, I love him.
Oh no.
But I'm
I don't love
disagree.
him.
No, I'm disagree.
Tariq Fateh is a crackpot.
No, I don't know why you say that, but I can say that he have very much good things to say. But in one point, when he say he is a Muslim, then I crashing because I don't know what he mean with this.
This is why I just quickly wanted to add on that this is why their message doesn't resonate with a lot of Muslims. That if you're going to come against points that are clearly contradicting with the Qur'an, I mean, if you're going to speak against jihad, if you're going to speak against polygamy, if you're going to speak against child marriages and all of that, then your question is, why are you a Muslim? You know, why are you not letting it go? Like, I mean, I agree with you that this is all nonsense, but I am not a Muslim. I'm an atheist. But you're still trying to carry the tag. So sometimes there's a lot of people who believe that maybe it's just a strategy. Yeah. Maybe they are atheists on the inside. So when you think like that, then you're already questioning the integrity of someone. Yeah. And when you question the integrity, you don't want to take them seriously. So I think this is probably why the ex-Muslim atheist movement is a lot more successful.
Yeah, but I'm disagree to say that he's just one, what you say it?
Secret closeted atheist.
No, I mean it's just crap or something. No,
right.
These people are important, but like I say, I think the same way like you do. Actually, many times I say to my wife, maybe they are not Muslim. Maybe he's not Muslim, just acting like Muslim because of when you hear them, they are so smart, and they are exposing Islam, and they are doing very good job for humanity. And the end, do hear, I'm a Muslim. Then I think, what is going on here? I understand. But they are important people, I think, all of them doing some things right and contributing to enlightenment, I think.
I just gonna say that it's much appreciated, no matter if it's just the white people or the ex-Muslims or the Muslims. In all the voices of reason, they are appreciated a lot.
No one there, then him, then we finishing because she have to catch a flight. I have to go to work.
Yeah, I have to go in 15 minutes. Am
Last
I the
question.
only one who's freezing up here?
No, yeah, you are.
It's cold.
Last question here. Have you someone there?
Because your solution is that you have to be I react a little about what you are saying just now, and maybe that has been said many times actually during this evening, that your solution is to be an ex-Muslim and be an atheist. That's the only sort of reasonable way to handle the problem.
No, not.
But
no, I'm not an atheist.
Okay, but I had that feeling that especially you to just now, and because this is actually a human dimension that some people believe in a God. I'm not talking about any specific religion, but there are people who are religious, and for those people who have grown up into a Muslim culture, for them, there's most likely I understand. They don't want to leave everything there because they still believe. They believe in the prayer and something they think is right and an existential fact. And so therefore, if you only give these people the solution to leave Islam and leave the religion and become atheists, I don't think you will come very far, to be honest, because most people in the world today are actually religious people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But, can I?
Sure.
Okay.
Just let me in a little.
Me. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't mean actually that they have to leave, but the common. I mean, let's have one not politically correct speech. The first step is, I mean that Muslims have to realize the truth about Islam. Then they can decide. Like you said, this is true. The two way there. Leave Islam. You don't need to mention that I'm not a Muslim. You are not Muslim in any way, you are not practicing. Or became like very radical. This is very small option. But this is the truth, in this religion is the one of the most dangerous religion in 21st century. And we have to say the truth. We have to look what's happening in the all Muslim countries, even in the West. It is death penalty for living Islam in the 13 Muslim country. We are talking about this Islam. And
I totally agree with you.
after they leave Islam, for me, is the first step is important. You leave Islam, okay, you became deist or Christian or Buddhist or atheist, no problem for me in first step. After later, when we have the one soft Islam, like nobody practicing, like Christianity, just they go to church maybe one Sunday, maybe not. That not just in the name. Most Christians like this today. We can go on the street and ask people. And then we can have a new debate. Then is the religion, the existence of God. Then I will promote atheism. Maybe she not. She will promote maybe something else. But this is the second debate. I believe that. The first thing is very important that Muslims, one author, M.A. Khan, I don't know what's his name, M.A. Khan. Actually, I'm sure he's from Pakistan or India.
Yeah, I would like to answer.
The book name is, you will answer, the book name is Jihad. And in one article he said, shaming out Muslims from Islam. And he have right. You know what he said? He said this majority of Muslim people actually don't know what is Islam. They are just practicing one, not real Islam. If we show them the truth, what is Islam, he is sure that they will choose to leave Islam because they will have shame. I'm shamed myself out of Islam after I learned it. All this stupid thing, all this brutal thing are Islamic. Then I shame it myself. I think I cannot call myself a Muslim. Why? Because this cannot be true. At this I mean that we have to talk about that. Even many people will not like it, but we have to talk about it.
Being self-conscious and self-aware with the free will, I like to consider the idea of having a soul. And this is the only reason that I don't fit into the category of being an atheist. I am sometimes absolutely sure that I have a soul. And because this soul of mine isn't seeking any redemption anywhere and isn't buying into anyone telling me that I'm a sinner, I don't feel like I should ever belong to any particular religion. I don't need anyone to agree with me. I'm completely fine feeling the way I do, with a very open mind that I could be completely wrong. So this is the only reason that I can't say that I am an atheist, but I am a free thinker, and I enjoy ancient mythologies and writings of Judeo-Christianity a lot. I read them and I wonder what might have happened, how we misunderstood what was really going on and things like that. I like to plunder. But I don't think those things belong in the seat of power over people's actions in the daily basis. I don't think religion should control so much of a person's life. Not in a country like Norway, at least. We have come so far, depending on human rights, and letting it all go because we want to be tolerant of someone we don't even want to completely study. It seems stupid.
Now, this is where my militant atheist is going to come out, and I believe you're a God believer, and I accept your good intentions that you believe that. I'm assuming you're from Christian background, you believe in a Christian God, and you're thinking, okay, why can't we have Muslims with fairly benign beliefs as well? And this is why I actually don't have a problem with Reformed Islam, in a sense that if I can have no problem with Christians, or if I can have no problem with ex-Muslims who become Christians, I don't have any problems with them as such, other than just a purely academic or intellectual disagreement. then why should I have a problem with a Muslim who just believes in his own fairy tale, peaceful, benign version of Islam? So that's why I don't have a problem with reformed Islam. But I don't buy your argument that this is not going to work, because it's clearly working for us, and it's working for a lot of people. Just because a bigger number of people at the moment believe in some sort of a God, it doesn't mean that humanity's predisposition to believing in it. It's called argument from popularity. So we had times when people believed that the earth was flat. Doesn't mean, and then we changed it with better reasoning and better scientific discoveries. In fact, in the West, the fastest growing demographic is no religion. That's the fastest growing. It's growing faster than Christianity, is growing faster than Islam, and Christianity is actually going backwards. And I think in your country, Norway, I think you could tell me that the 70% or something under the ages of 30 in Norway have actually no religion.
It's true. In Scandinavia, religious people can deny that if they want. But when the statistic you see, the Scandinavian countries, the most non-religious countries
it's the
in
fastest
the West.
growing. So just imagine now there's 70. If it's 70, I could be a little bit wrong here or there, but it was a big number. So imagine now when us older folks have died out, and those 70%, now they have inherited Norway. So they imagine 70% of Norwegians being atheists. Now, and this could happen everywhere else, wherever the countries that have, this is why I mentioned the uncontrolled scientific discovery, where there's no restriction on what you can think or what kind of scientific discoveries you can make. You are bound to you're bound to bury your gods, and this is what's been happening, I believe.
You know, I said this is 17th seminar, and all these seminars we had ex-Muslim activists. But I believe now it is time, maybe next year we will start debate. You know, we have not so much economy to make like big debates or something like that. But I believe maybe we have to focus and take this topic, for example, atheism, with some Christian and Muslim people, and more like this. This is a good idea, I just get it. And we have one gift to you, or some gift to you. After I read your book, I see that you are very interested with some things I'm very interested.
Right.
I don't know, have you read it?
I have read it.
Okay. Have you read it? Don't say that.
I haven't read that. It's still in the Bible.
No.
I haven't read that.
It's embracing. Okay, I have read it and I love it.
Yeah.
But this you didn't have, ex-Muslim T-shirts.
No, I didn't.
One for you and one for your girlfriend.
Right.
Or two for you. Or one for your girlfriend. I believe, you know, anyone who read this book, you don't need all three. He have actually three books. Yuval Noah Harari, he is Jewish. Jewish, yes.
But he's an atheist.
Yes, but
he's an
this
atheist
book,
as well.
You know, this book have to be in the schools. This book really have to be in every school. We don't need any critique of religions. This will make every people became like as human being, without dogmas. The history, our story, you know, this exposes Islam and every religions. Thank you very much. And I just want to remind you, downstairs we have books of Haris Sultan. I hope you will buy it. It is 250 kron. And he will come downstairs and he will sign it. Thank you very much.